Hey everybody, it's Sam Amico Hoops Wire live on 330 to go. Happy weekend. Is that something people actually say, happy weekend? Or did I just make that up? Believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, I have done some show prep, which is probably a first. But, we're going to talk about the Cavaliers. Their 13-0 start have been magnificent for the most part. It's hard to say 13-0 and have any complaints. So everybody probably gets some high marks. I also have like a piece of dead skin on my nose that only I can see, but I can see it and it's bothering me. That right there makes for good television, by the way. Anyway, so it's Friday and we're going to talk about the Cavs. They are 13-0, as you know. And they've got the Chicago Bulls coming into town for their first game of the NBA Cup, which nobody really seems to understand. It's an in-season, regular season tournament, and I just call it the regular season with funny-looking courts. But as Mark Price was quick to remind me, yeah, it's a regular season game, but there's a trophy at the end. I can tell you most of the old school players are not fans of this NBA Cup. But alas, the NBA has it, so you might as well go out and try to win it. And this is the Cavs' first game in this NBA Cup. Their next game in the NBA Cup would be Tuesday at the Boston Celtics. Can they be 15-0 going into that game? They've got a home game against the Chicago Bulls on Friday, and then a home game Sunday against the Charlotte Hornets, who always give them fits. So there's no guarantee. And by the way, Sunday is the first day that the Cavs will be wearing their, I guess I don't want to call it powder blue, but sky blue City Edition uniforms. Interestingly, you'll notice my CBCA shirt. They're also in the football playoffs. I, of course, am a alumni. I guess I'm an alum. I'm just one person, so I wouldn't be alumni. Alumnus? I don't know. See, this is a bad look for CBCA because here's a graduate not knowing which word to use, and I also write for a living, so people count on me to know the right word. I believe the right word is alum, just in case my mom is watching. This way I won't be getting a text from her chastising me. Actually, I think I just got a text from her. Anyway, where else can you hear about my lack of vocabulary, dead skin on my nose, and the fact that I did show prep and it being a miracle, but here on Hoops Wire Live on 330 to go. So, before I ramble on anymore, let's get right to this list, okay? If the Cavs are 13-0, by the way, in case you couldn't tell, I'm also highly caffeinated, which is a rarity for this show. I know some of you are watching and thinking, what's he on? But the reality is it's just caffeine. And life as well. And I'm also on the Cavs winning streak, 13-0. Who's not excited? Who doesn't feel good right now? So, right to this, I've given each player a report card, much like I used to get at CVCA, but would hide from my parents. This one I'm going to actually announce. And, to me, let me start by saying this. All of these grades are based on kind of the player's expectations going into the season, as opposed to really anything else. It's like, what were our expectations of this player and how is he performing? So I'm going to start right away, or I guess after 5 minutes of nonsense. Darius Garland. We didn't know what to think about him coming into the year. Came off a really rocky season last year, right? Had injury prone, turnover prone, just admittedly was not all there, was not feeling the, in his words, joy of the game last season. So this year, people were very skeptical of, could Darius Garland get anything back to what he once was when he was an all-star a couple of years ago. The The answer has been yes, and then some. Darius Garland, 13 games. He's never had a 13-game stretch like this, so he gets an A+. He has been fantastic. He has controlled the offense. He's been clutch. He's not forcing anything. I said a couple weeks ago, he threw the ball into the Pelicans bench the other day. Setting up the offense, threw it into the bench, and I thought, that's the first time he's done anything like that this year, And I thought last year he had entire games where he was throwing the ball to nobody but the opposing bench. But this year, A+, highest grade on the team that you can possibly give, batting 1,000. Just been fantastic. He's been better defensively too, which a lot of people don't talk about because, You know why? Because people don't like to talk about the positive. That's why there's no Cavs coverage from the national media, because things are going too well, and they don't like that. They want to talk about Bronny a lot. I can tell you that, which is fine. That's fine. The Cavs, all they can do is keep winning and control their own destiny. By the way, before I get to any more grades, I've given out one grade. I've got to give out 10. So we'll probably be here till for another 7 hours. But I wanted to mention Full Court Cleveland. I wrote that down on my little sheet. And see, if I hadn't done show prep, I wouldn't even mention this. That's myself and Boobie Gibson, former Cavs shooting guard Boobie Gibson. We're on like an hour. I think it's an hour before Cavaliers Live pregame show on FanDuel Sports TV Cleveland, which is the home of the Cavs games. That I know that some of you saw my post on Amico Hoops that you can now get. I don't know if it's yet, but it's going to be soon that you can also get Cavs games on Amazon Prime. A lot of people have asked me, do I still have to pay for FanDuel Sports TV app or, Amazon Prime? How's that work? And my honest answer is I have no idea. But I know you can get games at both places at some point. Personally, I would wait and see what develops, because you don't want to cancel one and then have no access to the games. So anyway, Full Court Cleveland is on an hour before the Cavaliers Live pregame show, which tonight Cavs Live, I'm talking to you on Friday, Cavs Live would be at 7 p.m. So Full Court Cleveland come on at 6. Same thing with Sunday. And then most other days. My favorite thing is I've been getting pictures of myself on television from my friends who are out at restaurants and will send me pictures, and they don't say anything nice. It's not like, hey, you're on TV, this is cool, which to me, I did that whole show with Jeff Phelps from 2014 to 2019 on what then was Fox Sports Ohio. So it's not a big deal to me, but my friends, they're acting like this is a big deal, and then they will criticize my haircut. My one friend said, boy, he just sent a picture of me in a text and said, boy, is your barber wildly overpaid. And while accurate, that's not something you want to hear. I'm just thankful at this age I'm still able to have a barber, So anyway, on to the grades, on to the reason you're really here, which on top of my amazing dad jokes is to talk about the Cavaliers. Donovan Mitchell. I mean, there's been Donovan Mitchell, to me, is the one guy who's had to obviously take a step back. Less Donovan Mitchell, more of the other guys to make this work. And the great thing about having a superstar is when it's not working, he can just take over the game. And we saw that the other night against the Sixers. Against a depleted Sixers team, the Cavs were clunking along, not looking good, couldn't put the Sixers away, and Donovan Mitchell just took over the game. He scored, 11 points in a minute and a half to close out that game. Nothing else was working. Nobody else could make a shot. The defense was good. The offense was good. The ball just wasn't dropping. So Donovan Mitchell said, here, just give it to me. And that's the value in having a star. But I respect and admire, and I think all of Cavs Nation does, how this guy has taken a step back from having to score 40 a game. And I was talking to Boobie Gibson again, and he said, look, as a player, that's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to do to know you can go out and score 40 and not do it. And say, you know what, for the good of the entire program, I'm going to take less shots. I'm going to force less shots. And I'm going to keep the ball moving. So Donovan Mitchell gets an A. Clearly. I mean, how could you give him anything but? Their backcourt right now has two starting, I don't know about starting, but two all-stars. Two guys who have a good shot at all NBA as well, provided this continues. Evan Mobley, that was a guy, another guy kind of came in with some question marks. Is he just, had he hit his ceiling offensively? That was one of the things that a lot of Cavs fans were wondering. And I think maybe the Cavs were themselves, excuse me, although they did not believe that, which was a big reason for the coaching change. So Evan Mobley gets an A. He has taken his game to another level. I look at Evan Mobley and Kenny Atkinson, the coach, of course, comes from Golden State, right? Well, he was there 3 years under Steve Kerr. Evan Mobley, to me, is the Cavs' Draymond Green. That's who he's become. He gets rebounds, and then he dribbles up the floor and sets up the offense, creates offense. He's been kind of that Draymond Green, obviously even a better defender at the basket. He's really improved on his defense on the wing. So Evan Mobley will bring the ball up much like Draymond Green does after getting a rebound and either start the break, which he's been very efficient at, or setting up the offense. And this is still an ongoing process. Coach Kenny Atkinson has said he wants Evan Mobley to bring the ball up more. He said, I'd like to see that even more, so I keep pushing him to do that. So, I give Evan Mobley an A. Jared Allen. He's had a couple of games there where he hasn't looked quite right the last couple of games. Something's going on with his leg. It's nothing serious. He's got a little bit of a leg issue. It sounds to me like it's kind of in the calf area or something. I'm not positive. Cavs haven't really said. He's been questionable game time decision a lot lately. So, but Jared Allen, so the Cavs, as we record this, have played 13 games. 10 of them, he's been wildly fantastic. So I give Jared Allen an A-. Last three struggled a little bit. Although against the Sixers, he came out very aggressive and got things started. So he looked better against the Sixers than he did the previous two games. I think that, Jared Allen, you never have a question about. He's going to, at very worst, be fantastic at defending near the basket. Isaac Okoro, he's starting to hit threes. He's shooting 40% on threes, which, that was a big question mark. Now, granted, he's not taking a lot, but guess what? That's okay. The Cavs never needed a small forward. They've got their core forward. They never need a small forward to go out and score 20. Isaac Okoro and Dean Wade have filled in for starter Max Strus, who's been out the whole season. I think he's due back in like 2 weeks. Probably after Thanksgiving. Definitely, I would say after Thanksgiving. But anyway, Okoro and Wade, to me, both are better than last year. That's what you want. You want to see guys take the next step. They're not going to be all-stars. They know and understand their roles. And that's to hit the occasional three-pointer and really defend on the wing. And it doesn't even have to be a three-pointer. Give us 4 to 10 points a game. That's all you got to do. And guess what? Both of those guys have done that pretty well. So I give both Okoro and Dean Wade a B. Why not an A? I don't know. I can't give everybody an A. That would be a bad teacher. Then you'd be, just handing out trophies for the sake of it. Which I'm in favor of receiving myself, but I don't hand them out that easily. Sam Merrill has had a sore ankle, missed the last game, but, doing what he's supposed to do for the most part. Not every game. For the most part, going out there, hitting threes, and more than even making the threes is keeping opposing defenses honest. He's been battling. He's not a great natural defender, but he's really been battling at that end. He's been, Sam Merrill's been doing an okay job in terms of boxing out and keeping his guy off the boards and going and get the rebound. So I give Sam a B as well. He's another guy who I look at and I say, is he better than last year? The answer is yes. He's better than last season already. I still have a few more A's to give out, though. Karis LeVert, he's been, through those first 9 games, he was kind of the unsung hero. And Karis is another guy who can break down defenders, can score when he wants to score, for the most part, can get to the basket, and he makes outside shots. And you know what? When Karis LeVert, if somebody else on the other team, on the opposing team, is hot, and Karis LeVert comes in the game, he will say, I got that guy. He wants to defend whoever's the hottest player on the other team, whoever's whoever's disrupting things for the Cavs. Karis LeVert wants to guard him, and it doesn't matter whether he's a point guard or a power forward. And sometimes Kenny Atkinson will say, no, that's the opposing center. He's 7 foot. But most of the time, Karis LeVert, it's honorable that he takes on that challenge. So he's been wildly, I don't want to say wildly, he's been inconsistent through the seasons with the Cavs. This year, haven't had that issue. So Karis gets an A-. I'm going to tell you this. A guy who a lot of you have given grief through the past, last season, I guess. And sometimes he can drive you nuts. But he's fun. He's fun. He plays hard. So I'm going to give George Niang a B. And you know what? He's better than last season. There are times George Niang has come into the game and really helped. The last time they played the Bulls on Monday, really helped change the course and the momentum of the game, either by hitting shots. Granted, I think he drove everybody nuts in Philadelphia the other night because he could not make a wide open shot. But he battles. He's a disruptor. Kenny Atkinson calls him a connector, which means, when he comes in the game, he kind of gets everybody back on the same page. So I'm giving George a B. He gets a B, which is up from last year. I probably at the end of the season I'd given him a D. But I think this year he's gotten a B. And the last guy I'm going to grade is a guy that nobody saw coming this year. Nobody had any expectations, but he gets an A. And that's Ty Jerome. And that's because he has come in to this offense, developed an offense where, not developed the offense, but run the offense to near perfection, kept the ball moving. Somehow, some way, Ty Jerome, who Dean Wade says has the meanest slow step in the game, and it looks like he's moving in slow motion, somehow always manages to get into the lane, and whether it's he either creates or he hits, I hesitate to even call it a runner. It's more like a slow motion jog. And I think that throws defenders off. I think the defenders are like, surely this guy really moving this slow? It can't possibly be in the NBA. But he does. Ty Jerome does. And let me tell you something. He reminds me very much, his role on this team so far reminds me very much of what Ricky Rubio did a couple of years ago with the Cavs. Ty Jerome comes in. He settles things down. He's really tenacious defensively. Again, a lot of these NBA players, they're dribbling the ball at the top of the court, not really thinking Ty Jerome is going to shut them down. And then all of a sudden he'll steal the ball. He and Ty Jerome and Karis LeVert have been outstanding at that. Just a guy will just be standing there dribbling, trying to set up the offense, not having a care in the world. And Jerome and LeVert will just pick him clean. They've done that 3 or 4 times. I don't know where that's come from, because I've never seen that with the Cavs before. So I think that's a Kenny Atkinson thing, where it's like, hey, you know what? The point guard is the engine to everything that this other team is trying to do. So let's disrupt him and make his life as miserable as possible. And again, with that in mind, that's why Darius Garland's been so valuable, right? Because the point guard is the engine that drives the car. And, the Cavs, fortunately, have had Garland, Jerome, Donovan Mitchell sets up the offense. It can run the point. Obviously, Karis LeVert can do that too. And now we're seeing Evan Mobley do it. Had a beautiful pass to Isaac Okoro on the break last week. Fast break, your 7-footer, comes up with the rebound, dribbles down, throws a beautiful half-court bounce pass right to Isaac Okoro, who just lays it in. That's a whole new element to Evan Mobley's game. So, the likes of Tristan Thompson, Max Strus, rookie Jalen Tyson, and others, I give all those guys an incomplete because they haven't played a whole lot. It's not really fair to grade them. But, and that's not so bad. When I was at CVCA, I always hoped that I would get an incomplete because that meant I didn't fail. And if I could talk the teacher into saying, you know what, incomplete, give me a little more time. And that, folks, is how I got into sports writing and not medicine. Anyway, Kenny Atkinson, A+. A++. Obviously, I have pregame dribbles on hoopswire.com. We talked about this on Full Court Cleveland. You got to talk about what Shaq said the other night. Shaq on the wildly popular, I'm stuck on the word wildly today. I don't know what that is. Maybe the caffeine. On the extremely popular Inside the NBA show on TNT, Shaq said Kenny Atkinson has nothing to do with the Cavaliers' hot start, which I thought, listen, I love Shaq. In my interviews, he's always been very polite, very personable. I think I told the story when he was leaning on my shoulder once and not really trying. He just put his hand there and I was kind of like going like that. And then I think once he caught on to it, he was happy that happened. But anyway, so Shaq said that Kenny Atkinson had nothing to do with the Cavs' hot start, their 13-0 start, which to me was extremely ill-informed, hot take on somebody who is not watching the Cavs clearly, because everything they've done. And before I say that, I always hate to credit the coach of the current team, because then it sounds like you're ripping the coach last year, and I'm certainly not doing that. JB Bickerstaff really built this team into something, and Atkinson will tell you that. He built this team and laid the groundwork for what's here. Atkinson has put in some new wrinkles and has helped them flourish. And I also think we don't give enough credit to Kobe Altman, the head of basketball operations, who's been here been the head of basketball operations since 2017, which is a long time in the NBA. And I don't think we give enough credit to him to saying, you know what, let's run it back. Let's run it back with a new voice. That's all this is. But this new voice is a perfect fit and has a lot to do with the Cavs getting off to a 13-0 start. Okay? There's no doubt about that. So Shaq was dead wrong. Dead wrong. I mean, Kenny Atkinson, and you ask the players. Kenny Atkinson had to go to Donovan Mitchell and say, We need to get Evan Mobley to another level this year so we can win games. We need to get Darius Garland feeling good this year so we can be a contender. We need to get we need Jared Allen to stay the same. We need guys like Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Sam Merrill, Karis LeVert, George Niang, Ty Jerome, and the others. We need them all to feel comfortable and confident that their superstar believes in them. So all of these things, in order for all these things to happen, we need less Donovan Mitchell and more of the other guys. Fortunately, Donovan Mitchell has one of the best personalities in the NBA, and he said, yeah, let's do it. And Donovan Mitchell isn't just talking the talk, he's showing on the court. Yeah, I'm going to get you the ball, I'm going to trust you, and I'm not going to play this hero ball that sometimes I have to do, which he had to do the other night. But he waited until the very moment he had to do it. And it was almost too late. He should have probably started earlier. But I think that, the relationship between the coach and your star player is everything. And I feel, to be honest with you, J.B. Bickerstaff lost Donovan Mitchell last year. Kenny Atkinson has gotten him not only back, but has shown him that, hey, we can do this, but we're going to have to do it as a team. And then if things fall apart, then we're going to, then it's up to you. But now we're seeing, if you're the Cavs, it's not just up to Mitchell, because Darius Garland's been very clutch. And I think a big part of that has been Donovan Mitchell's trust in Darius Garland. Donovan Mitchell said after a game, I think it was a Nets game, that the Cavs needed to come back and win. That after that game, we were all kind of like, I can't believe the Cavs won that game. But Darius Garland got really hot at the end and was hitting shots and making the right plays and, hitting Jared Allen and cutting Jared Allen for a dunk. Darius Garland saved that game. After the game, Donovan Mitchell said, my only goal in the fourth quarter was to make sure Darius Garland had the ball because he could do no wrong. It sounds like the obvious answer, but it's not easy for a superstar to do that because it's like things are not going well. I'm the main guy, I better take over. Instead, we saw Donovan Mitchell get the ball and immediately look all over the place for Darius Garland, get him the ball, and get out of the way. And that's, it's been working for the Cavs. They've been finding ways to win. And that belief and that determination is really installed by their coach. And I think I said this last week, there have been times where Kenny Atkinson has admitted he's been sitting there on the sideline and thinking, I don't know what else to do. It's up to these guys now. He's like, he said one game he was sitting there feeling helpless. He didn't know what to do. So for those of you who are watching this live or relatively live, obviously CVCA has a football game, playoff game. I got to admit, I was surprised that they beat Chardon, and credit to all the kids at Chardon because that program has been fantastic for years. So I was surprised that CVCA beat Chardon. But tonight, if you're watching this live, they play Gilmore Academy at Twinsburg. So that's the team. When I was at CVCA, my senior year, we became the first CVCA team in basketball to win a game in the public school tournament. Back then, we also had the Christian school tournament, which, of course, we dominated. No thanks to me. But we were the first team in CVCA history to win a game in public school tournament. And I believe that game was over Newberry? Or was it over Burton, Berkshire? It was over one of those schools up there. It was so memorable to me, I can't even remember who we beat. But I remember the second game, we played Gilmore, and they were heavily favored to beat us, and they were up 13 at halftime and talking a lot of trash. Now, keep in mind, that says nothing about the kids there today. Although I guess we don't have to be nice to them since they're not in the 3-3-0. Isn't that the only criteria? We only have to be nice to people in the 3-3-0. Anyway, so they were up 13, and we came back and won that game. So CBCA, I'm rooting for you to beat Gilmore again tonight. Then we beat Hawken. And then we ran into a school, South Amherst, that no longer exists, that beat us. I guess it would have been 2 games before the Final Four. So I was part of history, and I'm glad to be part of that history. And it's really cool to be part of this history with the Cavaliers, because I've been covering them full-time since 2007. And one of my friends texted me the other day, just wow, after they won the game. Wow. And I said, you know what? I covered this for a long time. I covered LeBron era. I've never seen anything like this. In Cleveland, I've never experienced anything like this in all my years as a sports writer. So it's been, look, a sports writer, we're obviously just bringing you information. We're not supposed to root for the home team or whatever. But, as a Clevelander, or I'm sorry, as a Cuyahoga Fallser, a guy growing up rooting for Cleveland sports teams, I got to tell you, I'm like, this is really cool. It's always easier to write about a winner or talk about a winner. So, obviously I covered the championship season, which was amazing, but I've never seen anything like this. Who knows where this will go? Look, this streak is going to end eventually, okay? The Cavs know it's coming. But regardless, no matter what happens, I mean, you want to build off this. You want to have a deep playoff run. You want to get to the finals. You want to win a championship. But no matter what happens, these first 13 games that we've seen it's just been amazing. It's been so cool to see them keep this alive. And my favorite thing about this streak is pretty much everyone has downplayed it. Kenny Atkinson said it. I remember when they were 9-0, he said, that means nothing. It means nothing. And then they almost lost to the Nets, and Kenny Atkinson came out and he said, well, I knew the streak's going to end, but I thought, not like this, guys. Not tonight. So they're starting to like this streak a little bit more. And then most of the other guys I talk to on the team will say, yeah, it's cool, but we also just focus on the task at hand. Don't get too far ahead. Don't focus on the past. Just focus on the task at hand, which is the right approach. Darius Garland is the one guy, and I love this guy, who will say, oh man, I'm always thinking about it. I'm like, no way, I do not want this to end. Let's get it to, 24, 25, whatever. Let's keep going. He's like, it's always, I don't know what the other guys think, but it's always on my mind, which is good, I think. There's also that benefit of that almost childlike joy about this, because it's really cool. It's really cool. So regardless of what happens, excuse me, in terms of winning and losing, as long as the Cavs continue to play well and play this right way and find ways, that's promising for the end of the season. Kenny Atkinson came into this season. One of the first things he said was, well, I went back and watched the Cavs over the last couple of years, and I can tell you, they haven't been good after the All-Star break. And he's like, that's when you got to be good. He's like, it doesn't matter what you do at the start. You got to be good after the All-Star break in February. So you're ready for April's when the playoffs start, and then May, and then June if you're lucky enough to get there. He's like, we can't have that. We got to be at our best after the All-Star break. And the last few years, that has not been the case. So if there's one thing we can count on from Kenny Atkinson, it's pretty much brutal honesty. Feelings be darned. So, but it's worked so far. Everything's worked so far. And I think, the Cavs overall through the first 13 games get an A+. So there's my report card. And I hope that we could continue to give these high marks throughout the season. I'm sure I'll have another episode like this where I'll be given out grades, and I hope they're, as a teacher, I think I've qualified as a teacher. I'm like the oldest reporter in the locker room. They're probably like, whose grandpa is this walking around here interviewing us? But that said, I also have an 8-year-old. So anyway, For more information about my personal life, just email me directly, and I'll be happy to share all the ugly details. Anyway, that will about do it for this week. Don't forget, Full Court Cleveland is on FanDuel Sports Network Cleveland, and an hour live before every game. I'm sorry, not an hour live, an hour taped. But it's on an hour before every Cavaliers live, and starring Daniel Boobie Gibson, who is great, Rafa Hernandez Brito, who of course is the Cavaliers' Spanish voice, has been so since 2014, and yours truly. They still have me hanging around for some odd reason. But on that note, have a great weekend, and I dare to say go Royals, and we will talk to you next time.